Hi, this is Christiana Gaudet with more answers to your questions about tarot. Today's question comes from a friend who is a subscriber to my weekly e-newsletter, Tarot Topics. In my weekly e-newsletter, I have a Learning Tarot section where each week I talk about one card, and I'm doing it in order. I've already been through the major arcana. Now I'm working on the suit of wands. And it's about the suit of wands that my friend asked a question. She wants to know about the story that we see in the suit of wands. She sees, as I think most of us do, that the first four cards of the suit of wands really tell a very blissful story. But then she notices that we have some difficult cards. We have the 5. We have the 7. We have the 9. Frankly, even the 10 is a little bit of a tough card, isn't it? So she wanted me to address the story that we see in the suit of wands. I'm happy to do that. I also want to say that working with the stories of the pip cards, the ace through 10 in each of the 4 suits, is a really wonderful way of seeing how the cards work together, of seeing how we find meaning in each of the cards. So the exercise that I'm going to do today with the wands is an exercise that you can do with all of the suits, and really should. I'd also point out, too, that when you see a run of cards, consecutive numbers of cards from the same suit in a tarot spread, you really want to pay attention to the story that you see there. Now, when I look at the suit of wands, of course, starting here with the ace of wands, I look at wands as belonging to the element of fire. To me, fire is your motivation, your vitality, your projects, your creativity, your spirituality, your sexuality, your passion, everything that burns within you. So the stories told in the suit of wands will be the stories of our passions, our projects, our creativity. Now, I would agree with my friend that the story told in the first 4 cards is a positive story. We can start it with the ace that may say, I have a great inspiration, or I'm about to start a wonderful creative project, or I'm going to be competing in an athletic event, or I've met a person that I'm very attracted to. The next card, of course, is where we dream and plan and fantasize about how this is going to move forward. With the 3, we see that things are moving forward, that there is some success. Now, 4, this is the traditional marriage card. This is where we celebrate and solidify the success that we've achieved. Now, my friend called these 4 cards a story that is blissful. I agree. And then what happens? Then we come to a place of conflict. You know, with the 5 of wands, I think we could see a lot of different things here. People could be fighting, they could be building something, they could be playing. But either way, there is some amount of conflict. If you look at this in the context of that blissful story of the first 4 cards, we remember that this is life on planet Earth. There will always be conflicts. There will always be creative differences. But then we move on to the 6, where we see victory. But then all of a sudden, we're defending ourselves against all odds, all by yourself. Now, what if this is telling the story of a creative project? Certainly, there will be many times that we have to defend our project. We have to carve out the time and the energy. We have to believe in ourselves when no one else does. We see that strength and that valor in this card. Then We move on to the 8, which of course is simply about speed and things moving forward, communication. The 9 shows us the wounded warrior. This is a person who has fought, been wounded, and still stands ready to fight again. Again, back to the question of how does this card even belong in the same story as this wonderful 4 of Wands card? Well, I would say without the 9, there could be no 4. Whether we're looking at a marriage, a job, spiritual growth, a creative art project, there will always be wounding. There will be always times when we have to stand on guard, where we have to nurse our wounds while we're still online doing what we have to do. If your marriage, if your creative project, if your spiritual growth is not worth the energy that you see in the 9 of Wands, then you're on the wrong path. Same is true with the 10 of Wands, where we see a heavy burden being carried. But you know what? If your marriage, if your project, if your talent, if your path is not worth doing this, again, you're on the wrong path. So to me, the 10 closes the story as we carry this burden the final distance. To me, this is the card that proves the success of whatever the project is, the marriage, the inspiration, the creativity, whatever's going on in this suit, whatever fire energy you're looking at in a reading. The energy that goes into these difficult cards, the 5, the 7, the 9, and the 10, is the energy that is absolutely necessary for success with anything that is of the element of fire. Anything that you're passionate about, anything that you're spiritual about, anything that's creative is worth defending, is worth persevering, is worth struggling. That's the story that we see there. Another thing that I'd like to point out is we can just as easily tell the story of a suit starting with 10 and going to ace. If we start from ace to 10, we see ace as the beginning and 10 as the end of the story. We'll then see the court as perhaps the lessons of growth that come after. If we see it from the other direction, we may see king and queen as mother and father God. We may see knight and page as we, the human children, and we may see the 10 as the circumstance into which we are born. The rest of the journey is what takes us back to the ace, which is our truth, our source, and our essence. I hope that helps shed some light onto the suit of Wands, and I hope it gives you some ideas of ways you can play with your pip cards. If you don't receive the weekly Tarot Topics newsletter, please go here and sign up for it. And if you have a question about tarot, please email me.